scattered showers, so something to keep an eye on. And Dave Murray was telling us earlier, maybe later on in the game. So hopefully we don't have any rain delays for Matt Pauley because we don't want those on opening day. High is 72 coming up on Thursday.
News, traffic, and the latest on the Redbirds. This is the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX.
All right, Tuesday on the Redbird Rush Hour, show number 2, Matt Pauley, not in Memphis today, but here in studio.
Back in St. Louis, made the trip down I-55
Good
this
to
morning.
see you. Well, you made it up I-55.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be
yesterday, up today. Yep.
That's going to be a heavily trafficked corridor for the Cardinals roster, I would think. It is in most years. I mean, that's not to say that this year is going to be a lot different than others, but there are definitely some players that are going to help them this year that are going to be stationed in Memphis initially. And injuries come up and guys are going to struggle, and you're going to see people going up and down that corridor.
Yeah, with the two things I'll be interesting on that is, first off, which guys result the movement is because of performance, because if a relief pitcher is struggling, then you've got a million guys that you can bring up. And then obviously from an injury standpoint, how healthy can this team remain? Because knock on wood, on behalf of Cardinals fans, I hate the words that are about to come out of my mouth, Kevin.
Don't do it.
This was as healthy of a spring training as I can ever remember.
Yeah, it'll only last so long, but it's great to have it that way with other teams losing players of real significance. So we have a lot to do. There are a lot of ways for you to join us. Obviously, 104.1 KMOX is amazing. That's the best place to hear us. We are still on the AM dial in case you want to go there and you're a little further out. You can pick us up on youtube.com/KMO at KMOX Sports. You can get us on Twitter. You can get us on Facebook so you can watch Matt and I make faces at the camera while we're talking baseball. And Matt, you're in a position where you're almost looking away from your camera, and I got to look right through my camera at you. So I'm going to be staring at the camera like an idiot.
Okay.
You'll look like a normal person. But
by the way, I was, because of I-55, I was driving, I was listening to 104.1, and it was a strong signal about 15 miles past about Festus. That's how far south I got before the signal started to go away. So that's great news.
Absolutely.
Hello to our friends in the Festus, Crystal City, Herculaneum area.
Jump on in. Everybody that's joining us on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, throw your comments in, questions, opinions, whatever. We're going to mix those in regularly as we do the Redbird Rush Hour every single weekday here in the 5 o'clock hour. All right, so this is kind of a scene setter segment. We're going to treat today and tomorrow, Matt, like season preview. Okay, we're not going to go over spring training things. We don't need to beat any of those things to death anymore because we've got some closure on certain things. It looks like the lineup is going to make some sense. We don't have to whine about that anymore.
That's nice.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this. We all agree, and we have agreed on this, you, me, Bernie, Tom, everybody that we've had on the Gas House Gang over the time, as we've talked about this in office. This 2025 is a critical year for this franchise. You have a big change coming to start next year with a new president of baseball operations. That hasn't been the case for a very long time. And to launch that, this team needs to get a lot of information this year. They need answers on players because we've dealt with this for now 2 or 3 years, understandably, because of circumstances sometimes beyond the team's control. Players aging, players getting hurt, whatever. We have too many question marks. We don't know enough about each of these guys. This year, we got to know. We got to know what Nolan Gorman is. We got to know at least some idea what Jordan Walker is. We've got to know what you've got in Michael McGreevy. We got to know what you've got in Matthew Liberatore. I'm not going to list them all because there's probably 15 guys that we need to know about before next offseason.
Yeah, and I think the Nolan Gorman conversation is actually the most interesting conversation of this whole thing because it very quickly changed from he's one of the guys who's going to get the runway. He and Jordan Walker are the two biggest keys. How many times did I say that? I don't even count anybody else. How many times in the past 5 months did I say Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker are the single biggest keys to the Cardinals this year? And now all of a sudden it's looking like he's going to have a hard time being part of that standard everyday lineup. And don't get me wrong, he's going to get his at-bats and it's all going to work out. But as far as just penciling him in the lineup every single day, I'm not sure if that's what it's going to look like. And I think there's a bigger conversation to be had because what does that mean about the team thinks about him, his future? What does that mean about what the team thinks about like this year from a competitive standpoint. Like there's so many different kind of tentacles that come off this Gorman thing.
Well, I mean, this is part of the reason why I've made the argument that, I understand that plan A, B, and C were to trade Nolan Arenado. You should have had a plan D.
Right.
There should have been an alternate that says, you know what, if we can't do that, we probably should clear a spot that's not in this group and rely on our depth guys that are going to be at Memphis to step in. But I will say, we talked about this when we thought that the way it would play out would be more Alec Burleson as the 10th man as opposed to Gorman. Doesn't really matter. I don't think it's very hard to envision 4 or 5 starts a week for Gorman as the 10th man, because all you got to give Burley one day off. I'm talking about when he would play.
Right.
You give Nolan Arenado one day off. You're going to give Newt a day off here and there because you need to keep him healthy.
Right.
Victor Scott's going to get a day off here and there. Like, there are going to be ways. Maybe a tough righty. You're facing Paul Skeens. Not fair to Gorman, but maybe Walker gets that day off. And they have the ability to twist that dial and move guys to different spots to create those opportunities.
Yeah, Donovan is the key because he can go play just about anywhere. Sidebar, for people who weren't watching the game last night, Gorman, when Arenado hits his 3-run dinger and he's done for the night, Gorman immediately comes in, plays third. He looked really good defensively at third base. He made a couple plays at third yesterday that I've not seen him make before.
No, he's going to be perfectly fine there, but the question is the bat. Sure. And I think, the reason I think it's important to note, that when you and I have talked about this, Gorman and Walker are at the front of the list of people we are talking about, because you need to know if you need middle of the order bats going into next year. You have one right now, which is for sure, and that's Contreras. He's healthy. He's a middle of the order bat. Newt Bar might be. I think he's got that ability, but I also like him at the top where he is right now. But other than that, maybe Herrera. So again, another answer to the questions that we're talking about. Is he going to catch enough to be your cleanup hitter? I mean, how much are they going to want to play Pages, and how much does that change all of that? But you got to find out if Gorman and Walker can be that next year. If they can't be that next year, they could still be it down the road, but you cannot be a good team without power in the middle.
And you've got more time to figure out Walker than you do Gorman, because JJ Weatherholt's going to be here before you know it.
He's starting at AA, by the way.
Right. So you have to, at some point, we're talking about no space for Gorman now.
Yeah.
And Weatherholt's not here yet. You've got to figure out whether or not you need to work to clear a space to keep Gorman in this organization or not.
Fascinating stuff. All right, we got a lot to do as we go through the day today. We're going to talk more about Nolan Arenado, a guy that I like a lot. Eno Saris, who does great work for The Athletic, has some real evidence-based observations on why he thinks Nolan Arenado is going to hit 30 home runs this year, which would be great, by the way, for him and for the team, because you probably get to trade him if he does that. We'll talk about that. I want to talk about how speed can be a real weapon for this team this year. We're going to talk about Mason Wynn coming up right on the other side of our traffic report. So let's do that now. We'll head to the Michaels Flooring Traffic Center and see what's going on with the roadways. It's Captain Roger Brand.
Well, it's a little bit better downtown now, Kevin. This traffic reports the service over at Door Company of St. Louis. They cleared that stalled tractor trailer westbound 44 west of the Poplar. However, traffic still jammed back to about the Musial Veterans Bridge. And the other one, the crash with the semi, eastbound 70 east of St. Louis Avenue, that's still out there. Only left lanes open. So eastbound 70, a solid jam at West Flores, and then it's pockets east of St. Louis Avenue past the Poplar, and that part will at least continue to improve. Because of all that, though, westbound 5570 still at a standstill from 203 across the bridge. That is a crash downtown. I can't see which lanes blocked. Eastbound 64 at about 11th Street. Both directions of 64 have backed up around Vandeventer Tower Grove. Eastbound goes up to that crash. Westbound goes from there out to Clayton Skinker. But again, it's slow all the way to 270, and it's slow again. Pockets of stop-and-go traffic really from 364 out to Highway 70 after that. Westbound 70 still busy from Kings Highway all the way out through almost Lucas Hunt. There's a crash 70 at our city. Eastbound's jammed back to the Blanchette Bridge. Westbound TR Hughes out through K is still slow. South 270 backs up Page down to Ladue, but it's busy down toward Manchester and again past 44. South 170 backs up close to Ladue down to 64 as well. 99 years, that's how long Overhead Door Company in St. Louis has been repairing and replacing garage doors for savvy homeowners. For same-day garage door repair 24/7, call Overhead Door Company of St. Louis or schedule online at overheaddoorsstlouis.com. That's overheaddoorsstlouis.com. Next update at 5:30 from the Michaels Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
Low, partly cloudy. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, 66 degrees. And opening day is the day that we're tracking. Looks like partly cloudy skies, mild temperatures with the high getting to 72, which sounds fantastic. Unfortunately, maybe coming with some rain. We have to track that. Dave Murray was saying earlier today on DGS, probably later in the afternoon. So hopefully, he said if they play a quick game, it might be okay. So definitely something to keep an eye on for
Thursday. Pitch swinging, boys.
Yeah, let's go. Get the ball moving. That's coming up on Thursday. And, of course, we got more in a moment on the Redbird Rush Hour. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you on 104.1 KMOX.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6986. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6986. That's 800-575-6986. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
When you have Rhino Shield on your house, it does a couple of things for you. It beautifies the house and it protects it from the harshest elements. And boy, do we see those here in the greater St. Louis area. You get instant curb appeal. It will stick to anything. Rhino Shield is the answer, no matter whether you're painting a home or a church or a business or a condo, because it's 100% waterproof. It takes care of the outdoor maintenance on whatever is on the outside of your home. The brick, the block, aluminum, steel, stucco. They can put this on with the 2 to 3 coat process. They're there about a week, and they do a great job. A lot of businesses have done it in the area. Several Firestones have done that. Vantage Credit Union over the years, Harlan Packaging down in DeSoto. Call Darren today and schedule your free estimate. 877-25-RHINO, easy to remember phone number, or go online today at 877-25RHINO.com.
O'Reilly Veriscan is a free check engine light testing program that pulls from over 600 million vehicle scans confirmed by ASE certified technicians to provide a simple report and possible fixes. Available exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Redbird Rush Hour with Matt Pauley and Kevin Wheeler with you here on 104.1 at KMOX and 1120 as well. And on YouTube, the KMOX Sports Channel, and on Twitter and on Facebook. You can join us any one of those ways. We'd love to have you take a look, say hi. You like my R2D2 shirt? You can comment on that or anything Cardinals related.
You're a nerd.
Matt, you're not wearing an R2D2 shirt. I'm very disappointed in you.
No, I'm wearing a K-State jacket.
That's all right. It's a little less nerdy, but still, it's sports nerdy at the very least. Okay. Mine is just nerdy. Let's talk about shortstop for a second. And I mentioned this in the first segment, but we are treating today and tomorrow kind of as a broad preview of 2025, getting into bigger stories, not so much lineup things and stuff like that, because we've done a lot of that through the spring. But I think this is a fascinating year. There is a lot on Mason Wynn.
Ton.
Thankfully, at least initially, it looks like it won't be the leadoff spot because he struggled with that. He struggled with that last year, too. It's not just a spring training thing. But he's a guy that's certainly going to be an everyday player. But you don't have a backup shortstop on the major league roster. You don't really have a true shortstop that you would love to play regularly in the big leagues at Memphis. Your true shortstop at Memphis is Jose Barrero. He's played 500 games at shortstop in his professional career. 400 in the minors, about 100 in the majors. That's probably your best defensive option at short. But he's a wild swinger. Think Javi Baez. A little pop, but he's going to swing at everything. And then you got Fermin, who's a contact guy, but he's not a good defender at short. And then maybe J.J. Weatherholt. Now, I bet he's going to play there for Springfield, and he's starting at Double-A. I don't think this is the plan.
Right.
But what I wanted to ask you, and we can kick around for a couple minutes, is what happens if Wynn does go on the injured list? Because there's no great option unless it's like June and Weatherholt's killing it.
Yeah, so Wynn did turn his ankle a little bit in yesterday's game, and the trainers came out and took a look at him.
A little scary.
I'm having flashbacks to Dylan Carlson and Jordan Walker colliding in Arizona last year against the Cubs 2 days before the season, just like that. But he told the trainers to stay in the dugout. They didn't, and then he takes his at bat and he steals a base. So he clearly was trying to show he's fine. I think it was telling that the one Memphis player who was on the Cardinals roster in last night's game was Jose Barrero.
Yeah.
Jose Fermin
Interesting.
started in left field. By the way, he made some really nice plays in left field last night. I was impressed by that. But Barrero was the guy who they had on the big league team last night. So I have no doubt in my mind if Fermin is on the roster and you need to give Wynn
the problem.
a day, then Fermin can do that.
Yeah.
But if Wynn is injured and you need an extended amount of time from somebody at shortstop, it has to be Barrero. It can't be Donovan. It can't be Fermin.
No.
It can't be a bunch of guys. Barrero is, and yeah, that creates a 40-man move. But you know what?
It does.
Zach Thompson is on. He could be moved to the 60-day injured list.
Yeah.
So he's on the 15 or the 10-day.
10-day, yeah.
Whatever. He's a pitcher, so 15. But anyways, they could move him to the 60-day. Yesterday, Mo talked about that a little bit. He said that they felt like Thompson might be able to get back before the 60 days, so that's why they didn't do it. But push comes to shove, you need a spot on the 40-man roster, and it's going to cost you 2 weeks of Zach Thompson. Go do it.
But the short-term message is if Wynn goes on the injured list, probably say a little prayer.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be a great option that you're looking at in the short term with Weatherholt still needing to show a lot before you would call upon him to give him the opportunity.
Right, and you don't want to start his clock this soon.
Well, if he's killing it and you're seeing a reason, but I would say it's not ideal if it's the first half of the year, maybe later on in the season to see how that plays out. All right, coming up after the news, we're going to talk a bit about a projection that says Nolan Arenado will hit 30 home runs this year. And it's not an opinion piece. It's an evidence-based piece. We don't know that it's going to work, but we're going to talk a bit about that and how speed can be a weapon as we continue the Redbird Rush Hour here on 104.1 KMOX.
Discover true luxury at Missouri's first and only standalone Genesis dealership, Genesis of St. Charles. Thank you for making us the #1 Genesis dealer in Missouri for 2024. True luxury isn't just built, it's engineered with precision and passion. Explore amazing cutting-edge technology, redefined elegance, and exhilarating performance in the new 25 GV80. A new level of luxury awaits you at Genesis of St. Charles. Visit us in-store or shop genesisofstcharles.com. Based on GMA sales records.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
All right, back to the Redbird Rush Hour after the news. Let's check the roadways, see what's happening out there. Michael's Flooring Traffic Center is manned by Captain Roger Brand.
Well, Kevin, we still got our trouble downtown with this crash involving a semi on eastbound 70 just east of St. Louis Avenue. Traffic's jammed solidly back at West Florissant. There's still heavy pockets east of there going past the Poplar from the earlier incident we had there. They cleared the crash eastbound 64 near 11th Street, it looks like, but traffic is still heavy in pockets coming in from Vanderbilt or Tower Grove, really, all the way to the bridge. And westbound 5570 jams at 203 across the Poplar. That really hasn't gotten any better either. Westbound 64, again, that Tower Grove Boyle area, bumper to bumper out to McCausland, but it remains slow all the way to 270. Clarkson to Topgolf. There's another heavy stretch coming from 364 out to 70. Eastbound 64, looks like we have an incident midway between Winghaven and K. It's jammed there. It's Seoul Research Park to the Boone Bridge, and it's backed up through the Interbelt. South 270 on the brakes, Page to Ladue. Both directions of 64 between Ladue and Manchester are heavy, really Doherty Ferry, and southbound from 44 down to Tesson Ferry, pretty busy. 44 westbound has delays from Vandeventer out to Hampton and from Southwest all the way through Laclede Station. Southbound 55 south of Arsenal down to Bates. That's solid bumper to bumper. Westbound 70, slow stuff at the city limits, a couple of pockets through the airport, both ways around the Blanchard City. We had an eastbound crash. It's actually eastbound is jammed there. Next update at 5:40 from the Michael's Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
This news update is sponsored by Michael's Flooring Outlet, the flooring experts, michaelsflooringoutlet.com. How some veterans are reacting to the war plan's security breach.
North Carolina veterans are upset over the use of a civilian app for secret military operations. Vietnam veteran Edwin J. Thomas says President Trump's cabinet officials should have known better than to use a non-governmental phone app to discuss top secret military operations.
I think it's a big deal. Everything should be kept confidential behind closed doors of what they're going to do. That's the worst thing you can do.
Top national security officials, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, texted plans for upcoming military strikes in Yemen to a group chat in a secure messaging app that included the editor-in-chief for The Atlantic. Air Force Reserve veteran David Cameron Wright said it made him angry.
Makes me think they don't care about our security. That could give people like ISIS intel to be able to come in here and do us damage. It's not wise.
Both veterans think Hegseth and the others should be given a second chance. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Missouri ranks 5th in the nation for the number of kids in the foster care system. Those kids are staying in the system too long. Melanie Sheets with St. Louis's Foster and Adoptive Care Coalition says there is good news. Missouri is first in placing kids with their relatives. The 30 Days to Family program is being expanded statewide and around the country.
And so when a child enters foster care, what we're entering is a 30-day sprint to find a safe, appropriate relative. What makes the program different is that we're expanding that family tree to 150 relatives.
For tonight, partly cloudy, low 44. Tomorrow, sun high 66. It is 61 now. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Farming's hard. To feed the world, farmers have to work the land, brave the elements, and fight the battle against weeds. Weeds reduce crop yields, so prices go up and everybody gets less to eat. But 50 years ago, farmers got a new tool to fight weeds, glyphosate. It kills weeds while protecting the harvest. Time and again, it has been approved by the EPA and by leading regulatory bodies around the world. It helps enable practices that reduce erosion and keep soil healthy, which is good for the earth. Farming's hard, but it's a little easier with glyphosate. Learn more at go.bayer.com/glyphosate. Paid for by Bayer.
Here's a harsh fact. 40% of women and almost 20% of men suffer from varicose or spider veins. And if you think this is just a cosmetic problem, think again. Varicose or spider veins, if left untreated, can lead to swollen or discolored legs, cramping, the inability to stand or walk, neuropathy, even worse, blood clots, which can travel to other parts of your body. But here's the good news. Advanced Medical Vein Treatment Centers offers plans that treat and cure the condition, not just cover up. Grab your phone, take down this number, and call 800-587-1272. That's 800-587-1272. When you call, you'll get free information on how you can live your life to the fullest again. Walk, exercise, sleep well. Your vein problems will not go away on their own, and in time can lead to major health issues. Call Advanced Medical Vein today for free information on fast and easy solutions that are covered by most insurance plans, Medicare included. Call 800-587-1272. That's 800-587-1272 today.
Retiring soon? Get the information you need by joining Kyle Jones and Matt Allgeier of Fire Capital Management for your retirement highway, Sunday mornings at 9:30. Investment advisory services made available through Pine Ridge Advisors, LLC, registered investment advisors. Securities made available through AE Financial Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC.
There's nothing like opening day here in St. Louis.
Thursday, the Cards, the Twins.
Opening day is like a holiday.
Ameren Total Access 135. Cardinals Radio, 104.1 FM, KMOX. You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
All right, 5:35. It is the Redbird Rush Hour on KMOX. It's 104.1 KMOX to you. And it's still 11:20 as well. But I tell you, do the 104.1. It's pretty awesome.
Sounds so good.
If you are joining us on the stream, you can wave and say hello. We've got Lauren just, by the way, Lauren's great. She's one of our regular viewers on the Gas House Gang and has joined us the last couple nights here. So hi, Lauren. Thanks for doing that. We appreciate you. Your questions, comments, opinions are always welcome. The best way to get them to us is if you're on the streaming services. So if you're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, you can send the messages straight through there and we can see them on the screen while you see us on the screen.
Well, we'll take text messages, 314-436-7900.
Mix all that in there too.
Yep.
But Lauren just texted in and said that one about Arenado hitting 30 home runs. I really want to hear that. So, Saris wrote this for The Athletic. I'm not going to go into the big details because it's going to take too long to lay it out. But Eno Saris has a column up that is essentially he's looking at what he calls kind of like I'm trying to think of the right way he put this. It was something along the lines of not outrageous predictions, but like he's going out on some limbs, making predictions for the 2025 season. And one of his predictions was that Nolan Arenado is going to hit 30 home runs this year. And it's not based on just a guess. It's not his gut. Eno's an analytics guy. And he looked at the bat speed improvements that you and I've talked about a lot when it comes to spring training. And Nolan's bat speed jumped quite a bit from last year to the spring. Now, the results weren't great. I know he saw that too, though. Eno's no dummy. He's a smart guy. But he's using real measurements to say that Nolan Arenado is going to hit 30. I don't know if I buy it, but how big a deal would that be?
Well, he doesn't have to hit 30 to be better than what he did last year.
That's true.
So that's the first thing. So the fact that we can even have the conversation about 30 is notable. He hit a home run yesterday in the first inning. He had a 3-run shot that just barely cleared the wall in Memphis out in left field. His bat speed numbers, Kevin, were fantastic when spring started, and then they started to come down a little bit.
They did.
And so I still don't think we know who he is and what the bat speed is actually going to be quite yet. So I want more data, want more evidence, want to see them get into the regular season and what that looks like. But all along, we have known that Arenado is clearly a candidate to be a big-time bounce-back candidate this year. And I think we could see that. And the fact that some of the underlying numbers, and he spent so much time in the offseason, give Arenado credit where credit's deserved. He spent so much time in the offseason focusing on those type of things, being able to get the bat speed, using the quick twitch muscles, all that stuff. That's what he focused on. So you would hope that there would be some fruit to that labor.
Yeah, so he went in and he looked at the 10 players who in spring training showed the most increased in bat speed, and he was, I think, 3rd or 4th.
Isn't Lucan Baker on that list?
No, because I don't think they have enough data on him in the big leagues from last year to compare it to. But Arenado went from 70.7 to 74.1, which is a pretty big jump. Now, again, we're not saying it's going to happen. I want to be clear. I find information from people that are looking at things from different views than we are, because we're looking at it and we see Nolan Arenado every day. So the good and the bad and everything stands out. Eno's not doing it that way. He's looking at what does the data tell me and what normally works. So what he's looking at is when somebody's bat speed is 70 miles an hour, they tend to produce this much. And when somebody's bat speed is this much, is 74, they tend to produce this much based on the other characteristics, right? So Arenado doesn't walk. He does swing a lot. So he's measuring all those things. And again, I think 30 would be a lot. But if it's 30, guys, you're going to be able to trade him in July if you need to.
Yeah, my only pushback on this is that the data has been changing too much. He did not come in at one speed and just stay at that speed because it has been moving. I don't know if the data that he used is going to actually be what it looks like when the season gets started.
No, it's fascinating to see where that's going to play out, but I thought that was fun. All right, we're talking speed next up. How could speed be the weapon that we all want it to be? Could there be an element of Whitey ball with the way the roster's constructed? An element, not all of it. It's not going to happen that way. All right, so we'll tell you more about that after we check the traffic and see what's going on the roadway. See if it's getting any better out there. We go to the Michaels Flooring Traffic Center and Captain Roger Brand.
Well, it's still pretty tough, Kevin. Not a lot of speed on the highways, unfortunately, right now, especially downtown. This traffic reports a service of Interpark Holdings. We still have this crash with the semi eastbound 70 east to St. Louis Avenue. Still only the left lane open. Traffic's going to stand still back to West Florissant. If you're in a hurry, jump in the express lanes. They're fine. Westbound 5570, let's call it Exchange now to the Poplar. That's still a solid jam. Eastbound 64 better downtown, but I'm still going to call it east of Grand. And it goes all the way across the bridge over to 3rd Street. By the way, big game tonight, the Blues and the Canadiens. If you're coming in for it, eastbound 64 is slow Wing Haven, almost midway into K, Research Park to the Boone Bridge, and then from east of Lindbergh all the way through the Interbelt. The Interbelt's bogged down at Olive, jammed at Delmar. South 270 backed up south of Page to Ladue, both directions of 64 between Doherty Ferry and Ladue, still pretty busy. If you're on westbound 44, Vandevetter out through Hampton is slow. West of Jameson all the way to Elms busy. South 55, Gasconade through Bates is heavy. Westbound 70, slow stuff at the city limits. A couple of spots from the airport out through the Rock Road. Eastbound still has that jam 5th Street open to Earth City where that crash is blocking, and westbound from TR Hughes to Highway K is kind of busy. Make game day parking easy with iParkit, with 2 convenient locations on Clark Avenue right next to the ballpark. Download the iParkit app and drive in and out using your license plate. Choose iParkit for convenience and peace of mind. Next update at 5:50 from the michaelsflooringoutlet.com traffic center.
All right, let's take a look at the game day weather forecast for Thursday. So we're looking at partly cloudy skies. Temperatures getting to around 72 degrees. On the downside, we might have to worry about some showers later in the afternoon, according to Dave Murray. We'll obviously keep an eye on that, but that's your game day weather just a day and a half out from opening day.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
All right, 542, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you on the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX. I just like how that sounds.
It's good.
I like that 104.1 KMOX.
Point or no point? I thought
I like it both ways. I don't know.
Okay.
104.1 KMOX sounds just as cool.
Do we have the official, like?
I think it's without the point, but I'm an
Okay.
idiot, so I do it the wrong way sometimes.
All right, that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know me.
Yeah.
I screwed things up.
You're part of the DGS. It
Yeah.
just exudes into Redbird Rush Hour.
Oh, I had that before I was ever on DGS. All right, so let's continue on with speed for a minute here. We're talking about this a bit. You and I on the phone a little earlier today. I talked about it with Tom Ackerman today, standing in the hallways. I talked about it with Claves today, who was here in the building. It was great to see Claves. But when we saw the lineup yesterday, we touched on this briefly, I think, yesterday when we talked about the lineup that had Lars Nootbaar batting leadoff. So Nootbaar, Contreras, Donovan. But then at the bottom, 8 and 9, Victor Scott and Mason Wynn.
Yeah, I like it.
And what I love about this, and this is why I wanted to get into speed, I think it's fairly well understood in baseball now, and that's why I wanted to bring this up. It's not going back to Whitey ball. It's nothing like that, but it's pretty well understood now. Your best opportunities to steal bags and be aggressive is at the bottom of the lineup, because what you don't want is a guy batting leadoff in front of your best hitter, stealing a bag, and then the other team pitching around your best hitter. So you could do that in a couple ways.
And two things, not to cut you off, but you don't want that. You also don't want to risk an out with a runner on base with one of your best hitters.
Sure.
So,
Although with a lot of these guys, it's an 80-85% success rate. I always thought the risk argument was bullcrap. Because look, the average base stealer in baseball is safe 75% of the time. What offensive play is successful 75% of the time?
There's not one.
None. So I always thought that was overplayed. Just don't put a bad base stealer up there. Put somebody up there that's going to be safe 80 to 90% of the time, which the elite guys are. And there are solutions, by the way. If you want to have a leadoff man, like let's say later in the year, Victor Scott's going to lead off. If you want to put a little buffer between him and Contreras so that you're not opening a base in front of Contreras all the time when he steals, you can put a guy there. You can put a Newt there. You can whatever. But in this scenario, I love that if these guys can get on base at an even reasonable amount, 32%, 33 or more, they could do a lot of damage and create a lot of chaos leading into Newt, but then also meaning base runners in scoring position for Wilson Contreras, who is your best hitter.
Yeah, I love the idea of Scott on base, then Wynn gets on, and those two pulling off a double steal. I can see that.
I just want to see the chaos because that messes with teams.
And Scott is Captain Chaos when it comes to the bases. He is somebody who, as much as anybody in Major League Baseball, you have to pay attention to. And we have seen that can rattle pitchers. There are pitchers that get distracted by those sort of things. So we had this conversation on the Gas House Gang a week ago or so, where I mentioned one of the reasons I like the idea of Scott being in that leadoff spot is just because all of a sudden you can get a first inning that just goes bad really fast for a pitcher. And part of that can be connected to Scott being on the bases. You could do that with him in the 8th spot too. And I like him down there. I like that there's almost like different chapters to the lineup.
Yes, different looks.
Yeah, as you go along, it looks different from one moment to the next. And as a pitcher, you're going to have to change your approach and that type of thing. I think we make too much of lineups, generally speaking. That being said, I like this lineup.
I like the idea because Ollie's talked about using speed as much as you can. This team has not taken advantage of the new rules as much as other teams have. With the bigger bases and the limited pickoffs, because they really haven't had the personnel to take advantage of that. But if Mason Wynn has been able to make the improvements he's talked about in getting better reads and jumps, and Victor Scott is able to do that, I think the ability to turn walks and singles into doubles, maybe even triples, and doing that leading into your best hitters coming up, That's how you can use the bottom of the order to do that.
Look, in today's baseball, you just don't string hits together. That's just something that
It's not
really
it's
does
not a big
have,
rally era.
Right. So what you have to do is when you happen to get a base hit, it's going to be really helpful if you can have a runner on in scoring position. So if you've got a guy on first, get him to second. Find a way to get him to second, because that way, if you do happen to get a hit, you're scoring a run. And that's what goes back to last year where the team so struggled hitting with runners in scoring position. You just need to be a little bit better this year. And with some of these guys in the lineup who should be able to turn those singles into doubles, that should result in more run scoring.
Chris is watching us on YouTube. He said, I remember the chaos that Billy Hamilton used to create. He couldn't hit, but when he got on, it was chaos.
Yeah.
And look, obviously, we all of us here, we watched Whitey Ball. I mean, we know what that looks like when it's a better version of it, right? Like they were the better version of what Billy Hamilton was later on. But yes, that kind of speed can be really useful, especially now with the changes that favor base stealers and base runners. And, we don't have a whole lot of time here. We can continue this part of the conversation coming up after a quick look at traffic and everything. But I think that this is a team that's got to be creative to make sure that they're scoring enough. And that means using platoon splits at times, using Luke and Baker as a weapon, using the top of the lineup the way they are. I love all your best guys clustered at the top. And you can use this speed element at the bottom to do some of those same things too. And this is a team that probably needs to do that. So we'll get into a few more things on the offense. I'm going to ask you, we're going to each make one prediction in the next segment too.
Okay.
One prediction for 2025. It can be whatever you want. I'm focused on a player. I'm going to make a call about a player that I think is going to have a really big year this year.
All right.
And obviously you can do the same thing, or you can go the other direction. Any way you want to do that. So that's going to come up on the other side of our check of traffic. We're going to do that one more time in just a couple of minutes. So hang tight. You got the Redbird Rush Hour with Matt Pauley and Kevin Wheeler with you here on 104.1 KMOX.
Soybean biodiesel blends keep heavy-duty trucks, trains, tractors, and marine vehicles running year-round. Soy-based biodiesel has increased the price of soybeans by 10%, increasing farmer profitability. Every gallon supports farmers, strengthens communities, and cuts dependence on foreign oil. These economic benefits don't stop at the farm. The biodiesel supply chain sustains more than 3,000 Illinois jobs. Find out more at illsoy.org/farmer-resources. Paid for by the Illinois Soybean Checkout Program.
The Biz Dash returns as St. Louis's healthiest happy hour. Combining fitness and fun, it's a perfect team bonding activity for any size business. All levels of runners and walkers are welcome. Join us this spring at Energizer Park, home of St. Louis City SC, for the 10th year of the Biz Dash, the ultimate office party and kickoff to summer. Thursday, May 22nd at Energizer Park in downtown St. Louis. Create your company team today at stlbizdash.com.
When you've been hurt in an accident, you need a law firm that wins. Onder wins. For over 100 years, Onder Law has been winning for St. Louis. With over $5 billion in negotiated settlements and over $300 million in verdicts, Onder wins. Voted best law firm by STL Today 2 years in a row, Onder wins. Whether it's settlements, verdicts, or awards, Onder wins. If you've been hurt in a car accident, trucking accident, or hurt on the job, Onder Law will get you the money you deserve. At Onder Law, winning is what we do. So when the stakes are high, Onder wins. Call us today for a free consultation. We don't get paid unless we win for you. Dial 314 or 6189 million. That's 314 or 6189, then all zeros. Or visit us online at onderwins.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements. Past results afford no guarantee of future results. Every case is different and must be judged on its own merits.
All right, one more check of the roadways before we head out for the end of this show anyway. Captain Roger Brand is in the Michaels Flooring Traffic Center. Roger, is it any better?
Well, not downtown, Kevin. No change on eastbound 70. Still just the left lane getting by this crash. All of the flatbed tow trucks on the scene, so maybe it won't be much longer. But the jam, that's just east of St. Louis Avenue, by the way. The jam goes back through West Florissant. And take the express lanes if you're in a hurry. I don't know if it's Montreal Canadiens fans making the drive from Canada or not, but westbound 5570 is still jammed from Exchange all the way across the Poplar Street Bridge. Westbound 64 on the Missouri side, Kings Highway through McCausland's backed up. West of McKnight to Ballas is slow. Clarkson to Topgolf, 364 to 70. Eastbound 64, east of 94 to Research Park is heavy, and there's some heavy stuff around the Interbelt, of course. Southbound 270 backs up south of Page to Olive, then it's slow both ways between Ladue and Manchester. After that, southbound thins out. Westbound 44 West of Jameson out to Elm's kind of busy. South 55, slow gas can aid debates. And eastbound 70, still backed up from the Blanchette most of the way into 270. We cleared that semi into the safety V, so all lanes are open there for you now. Next update at 5:59 for the Michaels Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
You're listening to the Redbird Rush Hour on 104.1 KMOX.
Redbird Rush Hour, 104.1 FM, KMOX. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here for a few more minutes. I think, I'm going to ask you for a prediction. I'm going to make one as well. Okay. But obviously, I want to remind everybody you can still stream us the way that you always did on Gas House Gang. So on the KMOX Sports YouTube page, Facebook page, on our Twitter page, all of it's there. We see a lot of people jumping in and streaming with us. We love you. And if you have questions, comments, opinions, feel free to throw them at us. And obviously, we'll do that on the text line as we move along as well. So give me, you want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
All right. So you give me just any prediction you want about the 2025 Cardinals.
Lars Nootbaar stays healthy and has a monster year.
Nice. That'd be good for my fantasy team.
Like
I've had him on my fantasy team now for a few years. He's great when he's healthy, man.
Yeah. So I don't think that there are some guys who are prone to injuries and some guys who have fluky injuries. I think what we've seen from Nootbaar has been fluky injuries and not that he's prone to it. So the bad luck has been there long enough for him. He's going to have a healthy season.
All right. My prediction is going to be a little bit, I'm not trying to say off the radar or anything like that. I think it's just a month ago would have seemed like a longer shot. I think Matthew Liberatore is going to be a solid starter. I think he's going to be what you wanted Steven Matz to be when you signed him.
Okay.
He's going to stay healthy. He's going to make 20 plus starts. And again, with a 6-man rotation later, I don't know exactly what number that's going to be. It could be 25, whatever. But I think that with Mo's comment about him taking it to another level with his strength and conditioning in the offseason, and essentially the way Mo put it on Sports on a Sunday a couple of weeks ago was he did the things you need to do to be a major league starting pitcher. Physically, like from a physical standpoint, because the problem with Liberatore has always been he's had a hard time repeating his delivery.
Sure.
And a lot of that was because he didn't have the strength to do it. And again, doesn't mean he wasn't working before. There are new ways to do things. There are, the way you always did things is not always what you need to do in the future. And it doesn't mean it was wrong before. It just means you learn from what you're not doing well. And when one of the things is you don't have the ability to repeat your delivery, it can be a challenge to do that. But added strength, a little bit more muscle mass. They like to say, the pitching coaches like to say, mass means gas.
Yeah.
So when you get bigger and you get stronger, you get heavier, you're going to be able to maintain velocity deeper into games. I think Matthew Liberatore, so I would say for this year, I think he will be what people would qualify as a very good fourth starter.
So I agree with that. I think the fact that he doesn't have to look over his shoulder is going to be huge for him.
Huge.
Yeah. So there's no reason to believe he can't have a good season. Maybe a conversation for later on this week, Kevin, is the impact of the 6-man rotation, because John Mozeliak talked about this a little bit in the Memphis dugout yesterday. In a perfect world, you get more length from your starters in a 6-man rotation because there's an extra day, but also we know about starters facing a lineup for the third time. So those two things kind of butt up against each other. Which one of those wins out? And I think that's a really interesting conversation.
Well, I mean, it's a give and take, right? Because if you're going 6 or 7, but you're not doing it on 5 days, are you going to be a better guy the third time through?
Maybe.
If you're getting, this is why I think it's fascinating. But I will say this. When you go 6-man, this is one of the things I don't like about the 6-man, but I like it for this team right now because of the current circumstances. Because Sonny doesn't look right, because Matz has injury issues, because Liberatore is going to be starting for the first time in a while, because Palante's coming off a career high in innings. They have a lot to manage with this group, and a 6-man can help with that. I think when you're fully healthy and good to go, you need to be 5, but you have to get those extra innings from your starters. Otherwise, you're going to crash your bullpen.
Right. And that's the key. I would be curious to see over a full season a bunch of teams doing it if there are less injuries in a 6-man rotation because everybody gets more rest.
Yeah. Yeah. And we will. Lauren said she'd want to hear more about this. Yeah, we're going to get more into this, not just tomorrow, but obviously throughout the early weeks of the season in the lead up to the time when they're actually going to go to that. All right, quick tease. What's coming up on Sports Open Line tonight?
Yeah, we've got it's going to be mostly baseball for the 2 hours. So we're going to take these next 2 days and kind of do what we've been doing here on Redbird Rush Hour, that we're just going to be continuing to preview the season, taking phone calls, taking text messages, the whole thing. We'll have a new stream up as well. So for those
do
of you
the Sports
who are
Open Line one, yeah.
So we'll if you're watching on YouTube,
just stay on the KMOX Sports version of everything. It'll be there.
Turn off and we'll get you turned back on.
All right, good stuff. Matt Pauley's got Sports Open Line coming up after the top of the hour news. Episode number 2, the Redbird Rush Hour, in the books on 104.1 KMOX.
Hey, this is Eddie from Fast Eddie's Bon Air in Alton, Illinois. The sun is shining bright and it's